Money. Money makes the world go round. Money is how you figure out when people are doing the wrong things or bad things. You just follow the money. One of the things that a lot of us YouTubers have realized is that there's a fledgling business here. There's a way to make money. And whether or not we make a lot of money, that's to be debated. John and I talk about his revenue streams in today's episode. We talk about how much, not how much he makes, but what percentages each revenue stream take up. And we talk about a very interesting way that he is monetizing Facebook, which quite honestly, Facebook is extraordinarily hard to monetize, and John has found a really great way to do it. I hope that you will enjoy this. Before we go, speaking of revenue streams, let's talk about my Patreon. I love my patrons. They're great. It's just, unless you've had a Patreon, you don't understand what your patrons can ultimately mean to you. It's not just because they're giving you money. It's because a relationship forms and gets built, and these are the people that are rooting for you. And it's always good to have people rooting for you. So if you'd like to root for me, or as a transactional thing, if you would like to get a podcast of all the episodes in one go, you can check the link in the description below. Join my Patreon. $3 tier gets you a weekly podcast of these interviews, maybe a little bit easier to do on the go. Anyways, check it out. You can also find John below, and we'll see you after the video. So let's move into, so this is kind of the business aspect of what you do. Let's talk about revenue streams. So to preface this, a lot of, like, if you go into the No Small Creator group, if you go into a lot of the talk, listen to a lot of the big YouTubers talk, there's a big push to diversify your revenue streams. Because AdSense is AdSense, and like 1 month you might make $100, and the next month you might make $5,000, if you make that at all. Right. And they, Bardwell spoke about this, like, his Patreon is huge for him because that's kind of like his base. How many revenue streams do you have at the moment?
So, Google AdSense is one, and then for a while I was writing articles. Mm-hmm. I probably wrote about 10 FPV articles. I think like 7 of them were for the Get FPV Learn website. Mm-hmm. And then I did a few for this other publication called Drone Nodes, and I think 1 or 2 for another one. And that would pay a little bit of money, or some of them would pay in money, some would pay in credit, some of them would pay in like products, but I just preferred the video, and I was like, I want to keep building this brand, so I stopped doing that. So in addition to Google AdSense, there's the affiliate partners. Mm-hmm. I have, I think, 6 of those at the moment. Mm-hmm. Not any one of them makes a huge amount of money, and it's very cyclical. I haven't had them for, I think I got monetized in May of this year. Okay. I probably got Banggood, 3 or 4 months before that. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of the other ones have been very recent. Mm-hmm. So I'm still I don't have a good sense on like how it's, because I know it's going to be very cyclical, right? Like everything's going to hit at certain types of the year. So I don't have a good sense of how to project that. But really it's just affiliate links and Google AdSense at this point.
So if you had to like rank the of those 2, or I guess of the 3, which one is the most lucrative versus which one is the least lucrative or the most inconsistent? What would it look like?
So when I was doing the writing, Get FPV had posted a thing like maybe 2 years ago, or mm-hmm. that they were looking for writers to collaborate.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, I had a bit of a writing background, so I was like, hey, that sounds cool. And I did that for a little while, and they were kind of like taking people on a trial basis, but they had 2 main guys that would write 2 or 3 articles every week. And so those guys I could see like making, you know, like a decent little bit of money. But after a year or so, they restructured it to where it was like, okay, now everybody in the community can submit articles. If we like it, we'll publish it, and you get like I think like a gift card, which that's totally fine with me. Like a gift card, I'm gonna spend it on FPV parts anyway. But then the part that I wanted to stop was it was just a little bit more work than the YouTube channel. And I wanted to be, the original way it was structured was more like a writer's room, like for a newspaper. Like they would give you an assignment, you would get it, you would say like, here's my spin on how I would structure this article, and you get approved and go write it, which that was kind of fun. But so then as far as the other ones go, that would, Google AdSense, I would say, is maybe 20-25%, and affiliates are like, you know, 75-80%. The Google AdSense, at least for me, is very low. Like I said, it's like $1 a day, maybe between $1 and $2 a day. Yeah. So it's not that much. The affiliates are generally higher, but like some months it might not be hardly anything at all. We just had Black Friday, so that was a larger one. And I can see this month already it's going to trend like back down to like very low. So I could see how like the bigger guys who have like 100,000 subs or more, like the Bardwell or the Stews, can make a living at that. Right. That's not really my goal. I enjoy my job. This is my hobby. I've always been very conscious to not make my hobbies into like a lot of work, and I'm really conscious in my professional life and my hobby life of burnout, not wanting to overextend myself to where it's no longer fun. So I'm trying to just keep it light. Like I said, if I can pay for my hobby or half of my hobby, that'll be nice. I don't want to get too specific with numbers, but I will say like my first year, I probably did about 100 videos, or, you know, or somewhere I crossed around 100 videos. Might have been after a year, but somebody asked me like, does that mean that you bought 100 products to review? And I was like, I hadn't thought about it. And like, no one had sent me products back then. So I was like,
yeah, you were buying.
Holy crap, I guess I did. Oh my gosh. So, I started keeping track so I just wouldn't spiral out of control. Like, so my first year, I probably spent about 5 figures on my hobby / channel.
Wow.
This year it will be down to 4 figures. I'm hoping next year I can get it to 3 figures, and then if I'm still doing this by 2020, 2021, 2022, I'm hoping I'll be positive cash flow if it keeps growing. So
wow, man.
I need, you know, like, how do you structure it? It's like, because, you know, if you're racing, you always got to have 3 or 4 quads built up. They're all the same. Those aren't necessarily my videos. And you know, you always got to be replenishing batteries because you smacked one on a gate, you know, 90 miles an hour or something. So, but yeah, I mean, it's not instant money for sure. And if you're into the hobby, you're spending a lot of money on the hobby. Especially if you fly a lot, and like nobody's sending me HDO2s, or rapid fires and stuff like that. So like all those are coming out of my pocket. But that's what I want to fly. And I always tell people though, it's a lot cheaper than racing cars. And it's definitely not the cheapest hobby ever, but it's probably one of, if not the most cheapest hobby I've had. It's cheaper than like going to buy car parts. It's cheaper than being like, I was like, especially during my video days, I was like kind of addicted to collecting camera gear. Like, you know, I was all into like Canon red ring lenses and like
and I mean stuff. You know, to put that in perspective for people that don't know, like a good Canon lens can cost $1,000 to $5,000 easy.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
that's just one lens. That's like having, you know, I'm just, it blows my mind. I've been making it off of this like Lumix G7 with a kit lens for the whole time. I'm like,
It looks great. I mean, see,
thank you.
that
Well,
goes to show,
you know,
like, that's all you need. You don't need it.
right.
And I'll go down the rabbit hole, and you start to realize in a lot of different hobbies, it almost splits to two different hobbies. There's the hobby of actually doing it, and then there's the hobby of collecting the gear.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful, you can spend more of your time collecting the gear than actually using the gear. And that's what I like about FPV in general as a hobby, is that there's not a lot of collecting going on. If you're getting something, you're gonna go use it.
Right. You might collect dead parts.
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
So there's one, you know, I know you say you've got the two revenue streams that are active right now, but I actually have noticed and seen it's almost like you've bifurcated your affiliate links into two different revenue streams. So you've got the ones that show up in the YouTube channels, and then you've got the FPV sales alert group. And I've been super impressed with that. So I think you added me a few weeks ago, and I'm like, number one, I didn't even know it was there. And I started like paying attention to it, and I was like, oh, that's actually a good deal. That's a good deal. And all of a sudden I was like, man, this is a wealth of really good deals. Which number one, I'm like, how the heck do you find, like, do you get like a newsletter from Banggood like every day that tells you what they're putting on sale? Or, anyways, I did notice that you used affiliate links for those, and I was like, well, that's genius. Like, you're providing the service to the community, which is like, do you need batteries? Because this battery is on sale for, you know, 10% off. Or like at $20. I think there was a battery that you put up recently that was like, you know, normally a $25 battery, and it was like a $20 battery, $20 that day. And you would have made an affiliate commission off of that. I think that's a really genius way to A, provide a lot of value, and B, make some money. Did you how did you come up with that idea?
So we have a local Discord group for the Houston crew, where we arrange like where to go fly together, where to go race together. Yeah. And at some point I made a channel in there that was just like sales alerts. Yeah. So that we could all, you know, we all need to buy stuff. So it's like, let's keep track of who's got the best deals. And over time, once I got affiliate access to some of the partners that I work with now, overseas and here in the U.S., I started thinking probably a year ago, like, would anybody be interested in like the way that I shop? Because I get kind of obsessive about it, and I just monitor everything constantly, because that's how I was able to run my channel. The way I was able to buy those 100 products was I bought everything when it was on crazy sale. And then when it was time to be able to have to sell it to buy the next thing, I could hopefully break even, and that's or just lose like a little bit. And that's how, you know, 5 figures didn't be 6 figures. Right. Yeah. So I was like, I wonder if anyone would be curious in the way that I shop, because I'm already like digging through all the stuff constantly. And then for a year, I was like, no, I can't reveal my secrets, because I thought that was like the secret to my channel was the way I shop. And then eventually I realized that's not the secret to my channel. It's all the damn shooting and editing work that nobody else really wants to do. So then I was like, okay, let me just start a Facebook group, because I had a watch Facebook group that's got, I don't know, 2,500 people in it that I don't even really touch anymore. But I was like, let me just start a group. I'll let it run for 3 or 4 months. You know, maybe I'll have 50 or 60 people in there, and you know, I'll just, you know, see how it goes, see if anybody cares, see if anybody wants to contribute, because I'll allow anybody to put any sale in there. You know, and it just kind of blew up. That was maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and now it's growing like 3 or 4 times faster than my YouTube channel.
Honestly, man, it's like, I'm super impressed. It is a genius way to I mean, Facebook is huge, but it's also really hard to monetize. And when I realized A, what you were doing, and B, that like how it was happening, I was like, this is really cool. So I mean, like, is there just like an obsessive part of your nature that like goes and seeks out these sales and like attaches an affiliate link to them and then puts it out there?
Yeah.
Is this really like you're manually digging through all this stuff to find these deals?
A lot of times, like I do have access to, like for Banggood, for instance, I do have access to like around the big sales. Yeah. They'll make like, you know, a spreadsheet or something like that with some codes, and then I also have the ability to ask for like, hey, I think this product's going to be really good. Can you give me a code? And I can give that to those folks. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it's just, but every other shop or every other partner I have, especially on the US side, like mm-hmm. they don't send me like, hey, we're putting this on sale. Right. I just generally like I spend like 10 or 15 minutes while I'm having my morning coffee, and I'll just mm-hmm. look through the FPV sales, and I've always done that with whatever hobby I'm into, whether it's camera mm-hmm. gear or watches or whatever. It's just like I want to know when that next deal is going on, and if it's good enough, I'm going to jump on. And I was like, maybe other people are curious to that too, but don't necessarily have that obsessive nature to just comb through everything. And so if I can have it served up to them in one place, like maybe it'll kind of benefit everybody. And yeah, it definitely can help me, and then hopefully help some other people get in the air. And I didn't think that many people would be interested, but I guess
there's definitely a group of people that think that affiliate links are impure in some manner.
Yes,
but and this actually gets into my next topic, which is that you're actually filling a huge need in the community, because most of us are not independently wealthy, and having a sale can be a big deal. So, like, how would you define your place in the FPV community, like both locally and at large? Like, are you a racer? Are you a YouTuber? Do you provide sales? Like, what do you think you provide to the community?
Wow. I haven't really thought about that. Like, I don't think of myself as big enough to really provide much, but I guess that I need to quit thinking like that. I'd like to be able to provide useful information in the form of the YouTube reviews to people, probably first and foremost, and then I'd like to provide, if I can get somebody in on that sale, it'll keep them up in the air. Especially me, like my first year was of just flying FPV. Was a lot different than like my first year of being a FPV YouTuber. And then back then it was like, you know, saving $20 on gear in general meant that I could fly, you know, an extra couple weeks or a month and have that part stay up in the air. And like, it's definitely a hobby that's, you know, kind of a luxury, and, you know, not everyone has those huge budgets. So to me, it's like if I can help somebody get in the air, and whether that's sending them some parts. There was a guy on Facebook like a year ago that just said, hey, does anybody have any broken parts? He was interested in learning how to do solder rework, station work, and fix stuff.
Yeah.
And like, I generally don't troubleshoot my stuff that much. If it doesn't work, I'm going from the IT approach. Swap the thing.
Yeah.
My biggest constraint is flight time. So I had a giant bag full of flight controllers, ESCs, receivers, and I was like, dude, you can have it. I just sent it all to him, and, you know, a couple months later, he was like, hey man, here's the quad I built. Like, there was enough working stuff in there or he was able to fix enough of it, so that was cool. So yeah, it's like that kind of stuff. And so and then as far as locally, I'm really, really fortunate to live in a community where there's a ton of information, people always willing to help. We have a couple of the best race organizers here, a couple of the best track designers. Matt Max and Neil Merrick and M. Grower are like two of the best track designers around. And so, when I go to a race, like I'm listening as much as I'm talking because I want to be able to learn. And then we all as a community have kind of, generated a culture where we help people and pass it on to the next group. And every summer we hold like a 3 or 4 race beginner series where we all go out and find anybody that's totally new, whether they can actually fly through a gate or not, and just get them to come. If you're having trouble getting your stuff bound up or working, bring it. We'll help you troubleshoot it. We just want more people to fly with and more people to fly. And a lot of times when you can watch a lot of the videos, buy a lot of stuff, fly a lot of stuff, but when you're in person working with someone, you can learn so much. And so we try to take advantage of that, get those folks out there. And it's really cool to see like people that were in that beginner race one year, leading the discussions, helping the people the next year. Like that's really, really awesome. We've seen some of that. So really that's my thing. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to be like a huge race organizer. I just try to contribute in the way that I can, which is just make the videos. Hopefully somebody finds it valuable.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, there's power in information and knowledge. I think I'm like still going back to like just the way that you structured the sales alert group. I feel like it has the potential to provide a huge amount of value to people. I know that I've actually started taking, I contacted you a few days ago. I was like, hey, you mentioned this charger, where is it? And I ended up, it's funny, I ended up having to buy it from somewhere else, but I was just like, I like that charger. Like that actually suits the need that I have. So right. I couldn't buy it from Banggood, unfortunately, because it was going to take way too long to get here. But so do you? I guess it sounds like what you're doing. Like there's the racer part of you, right? Which is you seem. I assume you're like being 225 in multi GP. Like there's probably a competitive edge to you. But like there's also the creative side to you. And then there's this other part that like provides information. So which of those three do you think is dominant?
If I had to give up 2, I would probably keep racing.
Okay.
If I could only do one, I would keep racing, because like that's the main part of my hobby. That's the part that I enjoy the most. And so that's why I'm a little bit critical of some of the other people in the YouTube space. It's like, okay, not everybody wants to race, but if you don't at least like engage with your local community, I feel like you can get a lot of stuff wrong. And but for me, like the racing piece is the funnest. That's the part where I get to meet everybody, talk with everybody, socialize with everybody, and then compete. And like I always try to have 2 or 3 guys in the community that I'm close to in skill level. And I've been like over the years like working my way up, so I would be closest in skill to like the slowest guy, that it was like the middle guy. And now it's probably there's 2 guys that are really, really fast in our town. And then there's maybe 4 or 5 of us that are like right below that. And on any given day, like any one of us might come up with 3rd place. And if those other 2 guys are out of town, then we're all fighting for first.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's fun.
I heard that same situation exists in the Dallas area too.
Oh, those guys are really fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We that's where Vanover and all those guys are at. So our guys all hang out with those guys. But yeah, that to me, that's the fun part. And like, even if I was a freestyler, it would be, I just happened to find the FPV community like in person on accident. Like I was totally content flying by myself, and probably still would be today if I hadn't just happened to be flying by myself at a spot where a few people had set up some gates. And I just walked over and was like, hey, what are y'all doing? Like, and I had my gear. I was like, hey, can I try? And I was just hooked. And I've been doing that ever since. But whatever place you can find to like meet up with people, I tell people, like, if you were into cars at one point, whether it was racing them or putting on parts or fixing up the audio system or whatever, that same kind of cars and coffee community that you had back there, and maybe life happens, maybe you have a family now or whatever, and you can't really participate in that anymore, and you don't want to take your minivan up there. You can get that same sense of community and camaraderie in FPV. Like whenever everybody shows up to the race, we all set up our chairs, and people have the tents and the little tables, and it's just like that. Before the race starts, everyone's going like, oh man, you got the new Vanover motors, oh, is that the new is that the new heads up frame you got? Like everybody does that, and it's exactly the same, and it's a lot of fun. And being able to have like the latest parts for $50 or $80, or you can build the exact quad that Edmund Turner won the championship with for $300 or something like that, which is nothing. But like you can't go buy like the same quad that the F1 champion won. Like where else can you do that? So
that's a good point. That's really cool. All right, well, thank you for the time, man. I really appreciate it. This has been really good, and I think that a lot of people are going to get some good stuff out of it. Where can people find you?
Yep, you can find me on YouTube, Johnny5FPV, and on the FPV Sales Alerts group, and I'm on most of probably the Facebook groups also, just chatting. somewhere on Facebook. You'll find them eventually. So awesome, man. Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Yep. Thanks. And if you ever need any recurring guests just to chat about FPV in general, where the state of everything is going, is everybody going to digital? Are you going to have all DJI goggles by next year? Yeah. Like, just let me know. Happy to go. I don't know. I'm still rocking my Dom V3s. Okay. There's nothing wrong with those. Those are the classics. So, all right. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming along with us. This has been an interview with John Eska on the Michael Rollins Show, because we, quite frankly, can't find a better name. And I hope that you will come out and join us next time. See y'all later. Bye. Thanks. I'd like to thank John for coming on. That was a really fun interview for me to do. I definitely like to get nerdy about talking about YouTube. John and I actually spent a lot of time talking about YouTube, whether it be in this interview or whether it be just talking one-on-one over Messenger, however we talk. John has honestly become one of my favorite people to talk to because he's so bold and he's so honest. And I really appreciate that about him. If you are into YouTube and you'd like to get a deeper dive into it, definitely go check out the No Small Creator group. It is a very interesting group of a lot of people trying to make businesses out of YouTube. Started by Cody Warner. A lot of good stuff there, a lot of fun stuff there. And it's a good place to ask questions. That's if you're interested in turning YouTube into a business. Thank you for riding along with us on this one. I really enjoyed it. I hope John enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed it. So I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.